V by Nikolai Gogol. Horror novella. Part 15. The philosopher trudged after Yavtuch. The accursed witch will give me a hot time now, he thought. Though what's with me, really? What am I afraid of? Am I not a Cossack? I did read for 2 nights. God will help with the 3rd. The accursed witch must have done a good deal of sinning for the unclean powers to stand by her like that. These reflections occupied him as he entered the master's yard. Having encouraged himself with such observations, he persuaded Dorosh, who, through his connection with the steward, occasionally had access to the master's cellar, to fetch a jug of rotgut, and the 2 friends, sitting under the shed, supped not much less than half a bucket. Finally, the philosopher went right to sleep, and only a good dousing with cold water could wake him up for supper. Over supper, he talked about what a Cossack is, and how he should not be afraid of anything in the world. "It's time," said Yavtuch. "Let's go." "Bite on a nail, you accursed hog," thought the philosopher, and, getting to his feet, said, "Let's go." On the way, the philosopher constantly glanced to right and left, and tried to talk a little with his guides. But Yavtuch said nothing. Dorosh himself was a man of few words. The night was infernal. Far off a whole pack of wolves howled, and even the dog's barking was somehow frightening. "Seems like it's something else howling, that's not a wolf," said Dorosh. Yavtuch kept mum. The philosopher found nothing to say. They approached the church and stepped in under its decrepit vaults, which showed how little the owner of the estate cared about God and his own soul. Yavtuch and Dorosh withdrew as before, and the philosopher remained alone. Everything was the same. Everything had the same menacingly familiar look. He paused for a minute. In the middle, as ever, stood the motionless coffin of the terrible witch. "I won't be afraid, by God. I won't be afraid," he said. And again drawing a circle around himself, he began recalling all his incantations. The silence was dreadful. The candles flickered, pouring light all over the church. The philosopher turned one page, then another, and noticed that he was not reading what was in the book at all. In fear, he crossed himself and began to sing. This cheered him somewhat. The reading went ahead, and pages flashed by one after another. Suddenly, amidst the silence, the iron lid of the coffin burst with a crack, and the dead body rose. It was still more horrible than the first time. Its teeth clacked horribly, row against row. Its lips twitched convulsively, and with wild shrieks, incantations came rushing out. Wind whirled through the church. Icons fell to the floor. Broken glass dropped from the windows. The doors tore from their hinges, and a numberless host of monsters flew into God's church. A terrible noise of wings and scratching claws filled the whole church. Everything flew and rushed about, seeking the philosopher everywhere. Homer's head cleared of the last trace of drunkenness. He just kept crossing himself and reading prayers at random, and at the same time he heard the unclean powers flitting about him, all but brushing him with the tips of their wings and repulsive tails. He did not have the courage to look at them closely. They all looked at him, searching, unable to see him, surrounded by the mysterious circle. The story continues in part 16.